So the way templates work in 9.1 is that they're now hierarchical and they cascade. So I can create a template, for example, and I'm going to call, this template here, this is for IIS servers. I can set whatever service checks or thresholds or various settings on this particular thing are. So like it's a IIS, there's going to be a web check associated with it, and I can set the contacts for that. So I can exactly, control how that service check is set up and what the alert timings are for that system. Once I've got the template built out with all the different options that I want, what I will actually do is I will assign that template to a particular category, a device, a site, or a type or subtype. So in the case of an IIS server, I would probably want to go in there and say, this is going to be a subtype for my Microsoft IIS server. So I'm going to go ahead and set the template for that guy to IIS servers, update, save that in. And now whenever I add a device with that IIS server subtype assigned to it, it's going to automatically inherit that setting. So it lets me basically pre-build out for each different type of device, what is exactly the particular template that's associated with it at the device level. Now, templates, as I mentioned, are hierarchical. So if I wanted to, I could set up templates at multiple levels and see how each of the different settings in there is going to be applied to those devices. So for example, if I drill in here to a device, and I look at his main configuration, you'll actually see there's a little icon here next to templates. And this will show me all of the different templates that are going to be applied to this device every time it's repolled. So in this case, there's 3 separate templates that are applied. There's the default template, which is kind of the global default for everything. And that's where I would want to put in things like my authentication credentials, for example, or really high-level global settings. Like I want to make sure that all of my Ethernet ports always have an error threshold associated with them, for example. I could build that in at the global default level. I can then go in at the site level and set things that are more site specific, like this might be latency. And the way that the templates cascade down is that kind of from the top to the bottom, if I set a latency threshold in my global default, but then I've got a more specific one for that site that's set, it'll be overridden by the site template. So, if I've got a site in China, for example, it might have a latency threshold set much higher than what my global default is, and that's the one that will prevail when I go through and look at that particular alert. And then finally, the category template can apply a different one on top of that. So for example, my remote router template might include things like Cisco-specific service checks, that are on my remote routers or anything like that. I could also apply those at the device type level if I wanted. So you can kind of have many different levels of how those templates are applied to your device so that you can have a very flexible system in terms of, building out a templating system that makes sure nothing gets missed. That's really the key, is that by making the templates cascade like this, I can make sure that whenever somebody adds a particular device type to my system, I know it's going to get all the right settings based on where it's located, what type of device it is, what applications are running on it, etc. So it gives you a very flexible way to apply those templates. But even when you see template none here, it just means there's none set at the device specific level. So like if I set this template here, it's going to go ahead and do that. But when I look at this template, you're going to see that the device template is now set at the bottom. And the key there is that that's the most specific level of template. So if I needed to do device level overrides for specific settings, I would need to put it at a template at the device level, because then I could make sure it's not going to inherit those settings from anywhere else. Once something is controlled in a template, you cannot override it at the device level. So if I go in here, for example, and I've got latency templates or latency thresholds in one of these templates, if I go to the device and try to edit the thresholds, it's going to warn me that changing them is not recommended. And if I try to change them, it's just going to get overwritten the next time the device has got a discovery run on it.